All right, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're signing in from. We'll just get going as we have more people coming and joining us. Pleasure to be with you for our fifth week. Still in lockdown, still in quarantine, no haircuts. So yeah, so we're managing as we go along. Fantastic to have you with us. This is week number 5. We've had a ton of fun with many of our friends already speaking about important topics like stress management, change management. We've also had a important conversation around emotional intelligence and adaptability. We're going to shift focus a little bit and talk about this idea of productivity and creativity and quality while working from home. That's become a big issue as we've gone through the past few weeks. Just to set it up a little bit, as we've got more people coming in, just to let you know, these are not monotonic death by PowerPoint webinars where I speak and you listen. Hopefully, we'll get you engaged and get your participation and engagement with us. So every so often, I'll engage with you to ask you to write some comments in the chat box as well. And we'll get you guys in smaller breakout rooms as well. We've got people from different industries. We've got some doctors on the call with us as well. We've got pilots. A doctor and a pilot working from home is not not the best idea, but we'll have some fun with you guys as we go along in our conversation. So here's what I'd ask then, just as we get going. Can I just get everyone to write in the chat box, what industries do we have? I see some, we've got renewable energy with us. Just in the chat box, then, if you'd like to write, so we can get a flavor of which different industries do we have on the call with us as well. Just if you want to write in the chat box, love to hear from you. We've got aviation represented. Again, when you guys send me the messages, please make sure you're sending it to everyone and not just to me privately. Well, Wade on the call with us as well. Welcome, Wade. Good to have you again with us. Support services, we've got accountings, we've got chartered accounting, banking. We've got lots of bankers with us as well. Fantastic financial consultancy, accounting, oil and gas. Suman, I feel for you a little bit, mate. Right now, what happened to the price of oil? Health services, again, Uzair, thank you for being with us. Marketing, management, financial advising. Fantastic, guys. We'll get going again. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. The objective is to talk a little bit about productivity and quality of work while working from home. Our life changed over the past week or so, 3 weeks or past month. Many of us no longer going to work. We're just going from one room to the other room. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the kind of rules of engagement. Over the past 13 years, I've had the privilege of teaching and talking to about 35,000 people in 50 countries, and obviously listening and learning as I've gone along as well. And some of the best practices that we've picked up around what makes people more productive, what makes them their quality of work go up. That's what I want to share with you as well. Well, let's get going then. Let me ask you one more time in the chat box. Love to hear from you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. What's the productivity level like right now? How are you guys doing from a productivity perspective? Love to hear from you in the chat box. 10 being the highest. You know, I'm super productive. I'm more productive than I was when I was in the office. And 1 being, I can barely get out of bed, right? So Sayed saying we're at 4. Alexandra saying 5. Alexandra, you're a superstar. I'm surprised if you're at 5, we're all in trouble. Alexandra from the world of wellness and well-being. Amir saying 6. Ahmed saying 5. Mona, of course, 12. Mona, a senior consultant in learning and development and HR with us. Sultan, thank you so much for being on the call again. Sultan's been on so many calls and running out of jokes. I can come up with new material. Mustafa saying 8. Del saying 3. Asad saying 8. So across the board, obviously, big conversation is this idea of productivity and efficiency. So I just want to set it up a little bit. Why are we obsessed with productivity? What's the conversation? Why has this become so more important? So typically, after kind of World War II, a bigger focus then on productivity and making people looking at the quality and quantity of work people put in. And then we trained managers of people to become focused on management by objectives, right? So you had conversations like SMART objectives and KPI setting. All of this became more and more important as people tried to figure out how can we make human beings more productive. And this idea of how can we get more done in the same time we have. And then came the tech bubble and the internet revolution, and all of a sudden we're supposed to be multitasking. I must say, though, that in the past few years, I've noticed that millennials, again, millennials, people born after 1980, like everyone on this call today, just kidding, millennials are much more productive, right? I mean, they are able to balance, manage a few things, and they are able to kind of, while they're listening to you, they are able to be on the phone, but they're more, maybe something that previously we were struggling with. So productivity, efficiency has gone up over time. What I want to do today with you guys is give you a couple of tools as well to work with to measure, are you guys being more productive, and the quality conversation we'll have as well. Well, let me ask you then, before I set this up, in the chat box, love to hear from you. What are some of the obstacles to productivity while you work from home? Many of you on the call today, I know we've got people from Pakistan, you're not working from home ever. But we've got people from all over the world. Love to hear from you in the chat box. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you guys are facing when it comes to productivity while working from home? What's some of the biggest challenges from a productivity perspective while working from home? I'm hoping somebody's going to say kids. Of course, I've got 3 under the age of 10, so you can understand why nothing ever gets done. Sayed saying just kind of document, family demands. Abdul Wahid's on the call with us. Wahid said, thank you for being with us. Faisal saying, yeah, kids, of course, running around. With saying too many team calls. Isn't that what we're seeing? We were having a conversation just yesterday, and we were talking about how somehow you're working longer, right? So people are on the calls longer. So they'll start, at 9 and they'll log off till like midnight. And you'll send somebody an email and then you'll log off, but then they'll reply. So you have to go on again, reply to their email. So all of a sudden we're working longer. Also, maybe energy levels a little bit fluctuating as well, right? Energy levels. Kamar saying delays in decision making. Kamar will speak a little bit about that as well. In a high pressure environment, in one of the conversations we had earlier, I'll just quickly recap. We spoke about high levels of stress and anxiety, and we spoke about what happens in high levels of stress. I'll just recap for those of you who are new on the call. We did speak about this in stress management. Do you ever notice under high levels of stress and anxiety, do you ever notice you get the butterflies in your stomach and your palms become sweaty, right? Do you ever notice why that happens, right? So biologically, why does that happen? Because we're trained in the flight or fight response, right? So, the moment you get a nasty email from your boss or something, that troubles you, the brain says flight or fight, send all the blood to the bigger muscles, the arms into the legs. The feeling of the blood leaving your stomach and going to your arms into your legs is the butterflies in your stomach. And because there's more blood in your hands, your palms sweat to reduce the temperature. Now, why am I telling you this? Because just like the blood leaves the stomach, guess which other area of the body the blood leaves? The brain. So under high levels of stress and anxiety, your ability to make decisions is impeded. We've got aviation people with us, and they'll tell you that one of the qualifications they have, or one of the things they look at, is under high levels of stress and anxiety, how quality of decision making goes down. So while many of us are working from home and trying to balance different things, remember, guys, one thing that is going to suffer, one thing that is going to struggle, you're going to struggle with, is the quality of decision making. For those of you who will be practicing Ramadan, we've got Ramadan coming in a couple of days. By the way, we've got a fantastic topic next week. We're going to be talking about how to maintain focus and energy levels in Ramadan. So if I make it myself, we'll talk to you next week, next Thursday, 11 a.m. About how do we keep that. Alexandra saying a lot to handle at once. Homeschooling, yeah, that's a topic, Alexandra, we'll be speaking about with you as well. Homeschooling, how can we help our staff and employees do that? So people talking about 80% of the work before 8 a.m. and then the rest after. So planning and prioritization, right? So how do we get over it? What holds us back? So some of the common things that people talk about is, the ability to kind of have to manage between different team tasks. You've got, for those of you who still got hierarchical structures, you've got that typical management, that you need to kind of send them something for approval. You send that, you wait for them to respond. By the time they respond, you're working on something else. How about useless meetings? How about useless meetings? How about being called into meetings where there's no agenda? You're just sitting there. People are talking about something you've got nothing to do with, right? How about poorly thought out meetings or poorly structured meetings, right? That's something that usually impedes or gets in the way of productivity and efficiency, right? I wanted to show this very important grid with you. I just need your attention and your focus a little bit, and then we'll set this up a little bit for you. So impact effort, right? One of the tools, remember the recording of this webinar is available on Gadlang's YouTube channel. I'll share that with you at the end of our call today. So you'll have that YouTube channel available, and impact effort grid available for you. Let me cover this. What this talks about is every day, there's some things we're doing that are high impact and high effort, right? So every day, think about your work, think about the things you do day to day. There's some things you're doing that's high impact, high effort, right? So maybe sending out client proposals or attending some critical meetings, maybe giving some feedback to your teams, some things which are important, sort of high effort, takes a lot of work, but high impact as well. On the other hand, you might be doing some things which are high impact, but low effort. I can tell you in my world of learning and development, all of a sudden things changed, right? So as opposed to doing these workshops face-to-face and traveling somewhere and standing in front of a room for 8 hours, all of a sudden I feel I'm able to have more impact with lower amount of effort through these virtual settings. Then you have things which are high effort, but low impact, right? So you put a lot of effort in, but the impact's not that great, and then low effort and then low impact. So here we go then. Love to hear from you in the chat box. Again, as I mentioned to you, these are highly engaging sessions. I'd love for you to hear from you as well, because we listen and we learn together. In the chat box, love to hear from you first. What are some things you guys are doing every day that are high impact and high effort? Let's think about that for a second. Think about what you're doing day to day. Love to hear from you in the chat box. What are some things that you do day to day which are high impact? So it's important, you got to do it. The results of that are great, but it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of hours from you. Let's hear from you in the chat box then. What are some of the things that you guys are doing which are high impact and high effort? And then we'll go around the grid and see what else we get. So again, love to hear from you in the chat box. Again, guys, when you do send the messages, send them to everyone so everyone can read as opposed to just me. Arsalan saying, following the to-do lists, conclusion of pending items, right? So some of the things that you've said in there which are high impact and high effort. Again, love to hear from others as well. Love to hear in the day-to-day work that you're doing, what are some of the things that you find yourself doing which are high impact but high effort? Sultan saying training and motivation, right? So whether it's for yourself or for others, takes a lot of effort, but the results are also great. Some people, so I've got some personal people messaging me directly saying team meetings, right? So maybe some coaching conversations that you're doing which are high impact and high effort. Any thoughts around some things that you're doing which are high effort but low impact? Aziz saying dealing with new principles overseas. Yeah, of course, Aziz, some things which are high effort, high impact. Let's flip it around a little bit. Let's look at things that you're doing which are high effort. So it takes a lot of work, but not really that useful. Any thoughts from you guys? What are some things that you're doing day to day which take a lot of your effort, but really the impact of them not so great? So Waris says, sending sales and financial dashboards to executive management, right? Doing all of that work takes hours and hours to do it. Impact of that maybe not so great. Adil saying understanding kind of the demands of the boss I was waiting for somebody to say my boss, right? Something takes a lot of my time. Impact, I don't know. Saad Naid was with us as well, a senior pilot from Emirates, saying making in-laws happy. Well, it's something we got to do. Aziz saying following up on employees on day-to-day chores. Exactly. And so interesting, right? Aziz, you're talking about following up with employees. For those of you, I know we've got some business owners on the call with us as well. We've got some senior managers on the call. So one of the things I just wanted to mention to you is what an opportunity from a leadership perspective for empowerment and delegation, right? Look, I don't know about you. I myself have kind of, we spoke about that cycle of change people go through. So about a month ago, our own business, right, learning and development got hit all of a sudden. No more trainings, everything's on hold, no more travel. So you go from that shock, oh my God, denial, this is not gonna last, it'll go back. Paralysis, my life is over. Anger, why did this have to happen now? Hurt, right? Why does this always happen to me? And then there was some healing and acceptance, and then boom, on the other side, we're doing these web calls, we're doing video recordings, so we're back on the other side. I'm sure many of us have gone through that typical change curve, right? Where you go from these different stages. Please understand, for those of your business owners and managers, that your employees and your staff are probably going through the same. So their own productivity and quality is suffering because they're probably in some stage of shock and denial and anger and hurt. And then, so if you're a leader of people, a critical thing is empowerment and delegation. If not now, then when? How many conversations? We've got some HR people on the call with us as well. How many conversations do we have with our HR colleagues about, if you're not developing people now, many people now at home, right? So many people not, doing the day-to-day work. And before, the excuse for personal development for us used to be, I'm too busy. Well, if you're not going to develop yourself now, then when? Allow me to put a couple of books for you here in the chat box. A couple of great books right now that you can read. In the interest of the current conditions. A great book right now, Indistractable, right? A great book to read. How about The Grit Factor by Oprah Winfrey, talking about the grit factor, talking about that resilience that's required right now to get through times. How about The Audacity of Hope? What a great book that was a few years ago now by Barack Obama, talking about the audacity of hope and positivity. Goodness, something we all need right now. Any last thoughts on low effort, low impact? Anything that you guys are doing that are low effort, low impact? Please don't say attending a webinar. It breaks my heart. It's not good for my self-esteem. I'm kidding. If you'd like to mention anything that you're doing from a low effort, low impact perspective, things that actually don't add any value that you're doing right now, something you're guilty of from a productivity perspective, something that you guys are doing right now, which are low effort, low impact, doesn't take a lot of effort to do, but really doesn't generate much impact, right? How about watching CNN, which stands for Constant Negative News, right? Great, exactly, Asadia by Angela Duckworth, yes. Checking regular emails, deleting junk, reading forwarded WhatsApp messages, of course, watching these videos. Everyone's a guru all of a sudden, right? Everyone's a guru all of a sudden. Like, all these people on YouTube telling us, or Facebook Live telling them they know what to do, including me. Nobody knows. Nobody knows, guys. We're all in this together. Everyone's in this together. But what I do know is that there is merit in group learning and merit in learning from each other. So cleaning up files, right? Watching dramas in the evening, right? Sorting, cleaning up files, and so on. Some things perhaps that you're doing that are low effort, low impact. So remember, guys, the video recording of this will be available. I'll mention our YouTube channel at the end of our call. Please make sure that you're able to go and keep this tool for yourself. There are different versions of this tool as well. I'm doing impact effort. Some of you might have come across, important and urgent. It's called the Covey box from Stephen Covey. Things which you're doing that you're important and urgent, not important, not urgent. Again, all of this is under the realm of taking the time and figuring out what are things that I should be doing right now that generate more productivity and more results, right? Because very soon what's going to happen is you're going to get busy again, busier than you are, and then personal development and self-development is going to go out the window. So remember, guys, this grid is important, is available for you, whether you do the impact effort grid or you do the urgent important grid. Love for you to be able to do that. So then, love to hear from you. I've got some ideas, but before I do so, something you've tried. We've got some senior managers on the call with us. We've got people from all over the world. Love to hear from you. What are you guys doing to make yourself more productive? Something that you've done, something that you're doing. As Artashi is saying, we're kind of reading self-help books. That could help as well. But something, if you've tried, for those of you who are working in organizations, who are responsible for doing this in companies for others, what are you guys putting in place? Something that you've put in place to make people more productive and improve their quality. Love to hear from you. While you guys come up with ideas, I'll tell you something that's helping me. I'm trying to put certain hours in the day, right? So certain hours in the day where I'm working, and then others where absolutely no work, right? So as opposed to just constant nonstop emails pinging, running back and forth to the computer, just like we did when life was normal, having designated hours in the day, right? How about getting dressed up for work? I feel I also need to get dressed up for work a little bit, right? You almost need to get dressed up and go in the state of mind. I mentioned last time, gotta wear shoes. You gotta wear, when you're working, you gotta wear shoes, just like you would when you would come to work, right? So some of the things I'm trying to do to keep myself sane and more productive as we work from home, right? Set goals for tasks. Mustafa, what an important thing you mentioned. A little thing I wanted to share with you. Remember back in the day, people used to talk about SMART goals and SMART objectives. Remember that, right? Everybody remembers SMART objectives? What was SMART objectives again? What were some of the things in SMART objectives? What did the S stand for? Remember what the S stand for, right? With specific, right? What was the M? With kind of measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound, all that 1980s, old school stuff. Look, guys, nobody does SMART objectives anymore. The world's moved on. The smarter objectives, the E and the R there. Other than those of you who've been on the calls previously or our HR friends, love to hear from you. Think about it. What do you think the E and the R stand for, guys? Love to hear from you in the chat box. Remember SMART objectives, right? SMART. What's the SMART objectives? I would like to increase my sales by 20% in the next 6 months, boss. Right? It's a SMART, it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, maybe realistic and time-bound. The world's moved on from SMART to smarter. Take a shot at it. Love to hear from you in the chat box. What do you think the E and the R stand for? What do you think the E and the R in smarter stands? What do you think it stands for? Think a little bit right brain. What do you think smarter objectives is all about? Asad saying evaluation, still a little bit left brain. Asad still a little bit left brain. Evaluates, a little bit left brain, guys. Review, just think a little bit. Why would somebody do something? Why? I would like to increase my sales by 20% in the next 6 months. I'd like to set a goal for myself. Why would you achieve it? If you cannot make it exciting and rewarding for you, why would you do it? So one of the things that I think, we're working with some of our clients, we've got individual clients obviously reach out to us and we do these webinars for them. So one of the things we're working with them is on not just setting SMART objectives anymore, but smarter objectives, having some things that are exciting and rewarding, right? Things that actually motivate us. So if you're going to set an objective for yourself, make sure it's exciting and rewarding. There's a bit of a reward in there for you, whether for the short term or for the long term. And for those of you who are managers of people, make sure that you're setting, exciting and rewarding objectives for your team. One more thing we talk about is the difference between KPIs and KRAs. Anybody come across this? Love to hear from you in the chat box. Anybody come across this KRA concept? KRA. What do you think KRA stands for? We all know KPIs, right? Everybody knows KPIs. So key performance indicators. Suleiman, of course, you brilliant, fantastic. Key result areas, key responsibility areas. Yeah, Zakir. Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Zakir is in the house as well. Dr. Zakir, nice to have you. Dr. Zakir, I'm going to pull you in, a senior HR guru in our world. Dr. Zakir, I'm going to pull you in a little bit to talk to you about what did you do for your teams to increase their productivity. I'll bring you in just a couple of minutes. Many of you familiar with key result areas then. Look, one of the things we're finding with the millennials, again, the younger generation, like many of you on the call right now, is that the moment you limit people to KPIs, their willingness and desire to do anything above that is zero. So if you limit people to KPIs, right? Look, let me give you an example. Four Seasons Hotel, right? There's a fantastic case study about what their KPIs were. So if you're a front desk receptionist at Four Seasons Hotel, your KPIs were pick up the phone before it rings 5 times, say good morning 100 times before noon, that kind of stuff, right? What we found was that the moment they picked up the phone before it rang 5 times, the moment they said good morning 100 times before noon, their willingness and desire to do anything above that was zero. But the moment you elevated their thinking from KPIs to KRAs, and you said, look, from now on, I'm not going to hold you accountable for the activities, just get me the results. So get me a high customer service score, get me a high sales number, whatever objectives they had. With the millennials, we found out that not only did they pick up the phone before it rang 5 times, not only did they say good morning 100 times before noon, they went above and beyond the call of duty. They became more productive, the quality went up, and they became more creative. So for those of you, whether for yourself or for your teams, love for you guys now to elevate conversations from KPIs, which is this short-term kind of objective-oriented mindsets, to KRAs, key result areas, where you're helping people achieve more than what they're mandated to do. Love to hear from anyone. If you guys would like to unmute yourself, we're going to go into breakout rooms here in a little bit. But before we go into breakout rooms, we've got Dr. Zakir, we've got Alexandra, some senior people on the call with us as well. If you guys or anybody else, if you'd like to unmute yourself 30 to 60 seconds and give me your thoughts, something that you're doing to increase your own productivity, or for those of your teams or your departments. Love to hear from anybody.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Zakir this side.
Go ahead, Dr. Zakir.
All right. So I'm a big fan of empowerment, and when we say empowerment, it is all about responsibility as well. Many times the leadership probably commonly makes a mistake by the word empowerment is they just dump the things onto the subordinates. But in here, what is important is when you are empowering people, you need to make sure that the skill availability of the people are to the level wherein they can deliver what is being expected. So while you are empowering, always be a mentor as well, and keep supervising on what's happening so that you don't lose the track. So empowering has always worked. It builds, trustability among the team, and the team feels good about themselves when you show the trust and when you show the confidence on them. So the key success for me always has been empowerment.
Fantastic, Dr. Zakir. Thank you so much. Of course, years of experience in the world of HR. You've led companies. You know what you're talking about. Of course, people talk about delegation and empowerment. The last thing you want to do is delegate into harm's way, right? The last thing you want to do is give somebody something to do that they're not either capable of doing. So there's a skill gap, or they're just not ready from a maturity perspective. Anybody else, if you'd like to unmute yourself, 30 seconds, I'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts around what are you doing for yourself or for your teams to make them more productive and to monitor quality? there's anybody else, you can unmute yourself, have a conversation with us. You speak now or you hold your peace forever. No, I'm just kidding. Hold your peace till we go in the breakout rooms. Anybody love to hear from you guys from a quality productivity perspective, something that you're doing and something that's working or something that's not working? Any thoughts? Love to hear from you. Let's see, we've got some shy people on the call with us. If you would like to unmute yourself, have a go at it, or if you want in the chat box, let us know your thoughts on, from a quality productivity perspective, something that you're doing that's working.
Actually, in these days, what is happening is because of the distance, you cannot motivate your staff to that level. It's not easy. You try your level best, but you do look forward to alternatives. I think the best thing is change your mind, look for alternatives. And I constantly ask Almighty Allah, guide me. What should I do in this scenario? What is the best I can do in this scenario? So you automatically keep on auto-suggesting yourself, motivating yourself, asking for some help from the Supreme, and then automatically you get the motivation done. You get motivated and then you keep on moving, And this will be badly needed for a longer period of time because this is going to take a long time.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Sultan Sahib. I think one of the key things you've said is because productivity was so closely linked to, was so closely linked to how you felt about your managers, the trust level that you had, and how far you went for your managers. Maybe because trust building and inspirational leadership not so easy now in a remote setting. Something I guess that we need to learn and need to figure out, how do we get closer with our teams? Remember, we had a workshop a little while ago on managing remote teams, on leading in a virtual setting. That recording is available on the YouTube of Gadlang Management Consultancy. You can YouTube it, Gadlang. I'll give you the link for that in a little bit. So look, guys, we're on the half an hour mark.
If may I drop in, Omar, just to have the conversation. In this scenario also, building trust, there's a concept called servant leadership, of course, by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. So if you follow the servant leadership to an extent, probably it will help. So I would suggest you can just go back and find out more on this.
If you like, Dr. Zakir, you can in the chat box mention the book, a fantastic book talking about.
I would do that.
Servant leadership. Obviously, they've written, even Ken Blanchard wrote a lot about this idea of why managers exist. And for those of you who are senior managers, just a point of conversation maybe to yourself is, why did you become managers, right? Why did you become managers, right? Is it just because it was just the next thing to do? It's just a better paycheck? Or why did you become managers? If the motivation is not to help people become the best version of themselves, and if you're not helping people become the best version of themselves, what's the point of being a manager of people? Look, we don't need managers, we need leaders, right? We don't need managers, we need leaders. Managers walking around trying to catch people doing something wrong, leaders walking around trying to catch people doing something right. We had a bit of fun with that last time, talking about emotionally intelligent leadership. Look, guys, one of the things I want to talk to you about, but I'll do it on the other side of the breakout rooms. Please make sure after we collapse the breakout rooms, you do stay with us, because I want to talk to you about branding and quality and what's your brand. We'll have some fun with that. Here's what I'm going to do right now, guys. I'm going to go into breakout rooms. This is an opportunity for you guys to kind of speak to people from different industries. You have aviation, you've got accounting, you've got finance, you've got product materials, you've got 11, 12 different industries on the call. So I'm going to randomly put you guys into rooms of about 4 or 5 people. If you like in the rooms, please do introduce yourself. And then what I'd like for you to do is, in your rooms, have a conversation about yourself, and just obviously tell them what you're doing. And maybe from a objective setting perspective, from a quality perspective, because we're going to transition after the breakout rooms to a discussion on quality, I'd love for you to talk to your friends and people in the room. What about the quality of work that you're doing? Is that being impacted? And if it is, what's impacting it? We're getting people telling us about preparing reports, and those of you who are responsible for deliverables to clients, project management, saying, Omar, the quality of our work is suffering as well. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what is the quality of your work suffering, and if it is, how do we fix that? So here we go then. Just a little bit of technology. Again, nothing too crazy. When I will divide you guys into the breakout rooms, you will have, again, just please unmute yourself, divide yourself into, and just introduce yourself, and then have a quick conversation about critical topic of quality, what's happening from a quality perspective. Here you go. You'll get an indication to accept. Please accept. You'll go in the breakout rooms, and after about 7 to 8 minutes, I'll collapse the rooms. Here we go. Please do click accept. Now, Prabha, I just wanted to see, are you the only one here? Nobody's accepted to be with you.
But you accepted, I think.
No, I'm going to go back into the other room.
You're always with me.
आप यहाँ पे रहें, जो नए लोग आते हैं मैं उनको assign करता हूँ आपके room में.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Yusuf Saab, are you here, sir? Have your friends unmuted themselves? Are you able to have a conversation?
Not really.
They're too shy, huh? Everybody's too shy to talk about.
I don't know.
Well, sir, I'll keep going into different rooms. Hopefully, we've got Raza and Yusuf with you. Raza and Yusuf, please do unmute yourself and have a quick conversation around the quality bit. I will keep jumping in a different room, sir. I'll be right back.
Is this Yusuf or Yusuf Choksi?
No, there's two different Yusufs. At least they're spelled differently.
Yeah.
Here we go, Raza. There's only two people in this room. How's that possible?
I guess 3 of them have left. I don't know why. I started the conversation and I was asking the same why people have left this room.
Actually, I think it's your fault. I think it's your fault. I think people don't want to be in your room. I'm just kidding. Adil, are you there?
Yes, sure.
Guys, please, a couple of minutes, have a quick conversation around quality, and I'll dissolve the rooms in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Like, what kind of quiet room is this? Saeed, Hasnan, Raza, are you there? Jazib, you guys gotta unmute yourself. What's going on?
Hi, Omar. How are you doing?
Hasnan, how are you doing? Jazib, are you there, guys? Unmute yourself. Couple of minutes talking about quality. What's going on?
Yeah, people are so quiet in this room, man.
Jazib, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jazib, go ahead. You've got Hasnan in the room. Just a quick conversation, guys. Couple of minutes around quality. Has the quality of your work gone up or down? Go ahead.
Yes. I think at the moment it's a bit of a hybrid version that's going on here in Pakistan. Issue with some of the workers that we've had is because of the lack of structure. The quality has deteriorated because the boss is not around to push them all the time.
तो इसकी वजह से जॉब की क्वालिटी सफर कर जाती है.
Fantastic. जिस कमरे में जी डॉक्टर जाकिर हैं और आरिफ साहब हैं तो कोई मसला ही कोई नहीं इस कमरे में. तो you guys I'm sure will having a conversation. मैं दरवाजे खोल के different कमरे check कर रहा हूँ. Very interesting. Let me guys wrap up the room in just a minute or so. Wali Saab is here as well. He's just joining in now. Hello, Aziz Saab, are you here alone? Nobody wants to be with you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Aziz, I can hear you. It just seems you've got a very quiet room. Nobody wants to be with you, sir. Is it your fault?
I missed the last 5 minutes, so we are now into breakup rooms. And
Yes,
what are we
sir, we're
supposed to
just
be
in
doing?
breakout rooms. I'm just dissolving them in 30 seconds now.
All right, so we'll be back together, all of us.
Yeah, we'll go back in the main room in about 30 seconds.
All right.
Right.
Great.
I'm just going to
Thank
jump
you.
into the next room, sir. Hold tight. I'll be back.
Yes. Thank you.
Think that you're in the office. And the second most important thing, what you can do in these time is get a media briefing. I have told some of the guys to start up a media briefing. They should just summarize everything what is going on the media, and only
sorry
should
to
see
interrupt,
that
sir.
only.
Sorry to interrupt. Just to let you know, I'll be dissolving the room in 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Okay. So basically, you know, once you get a media briefing, then it's okay. Then you don't go.
All right, guys, we should be now back as some of our friends come back into our living room, back into our house. We'll just give them maybe 30 seconds more, and then we'll get going. And again, as some of these people come back, just wanted to share with you a little bit around this concept of brand building. Brand building. Let's have a conversation around that. Let me ask you a question. We've got some people on the call. Let me just open up the chat box again. I see many of you are back now, back in our living room. Welcome back, where we can all be together again. Let me ask you guys a critical question. I'm gonna give you the name of a few important brands. Now I need your participation now here in the chat box, because the way I'm going to set this up is I'm going to say the name of a few common brands that you all know. And what I'd love to hear from you is, what's the first word that comes to your mind, right? What's the first word that comes to your mind when you hear these brands? Ready? So what's the first word that comes to your mind? Be ready on the chat box. Here we go. What's the first word that comes to your mind when you hear the word Disney? When you hear the word Disney, what's the first word that comes to your mind? Love to hear from you in the chat box. Yusuf saying fun. Dr. Zakir saying fun. Love to hear from others as well. What's the first word? Mustafa saying fun. Natif saying being happy. Disney, world, Mickey Mouse, cartoons, energy, life, entertainment, right? Okay, here we go. Here we go. Second, what's the first word that comes to your mind when I say the word Lexus? What's the first word that comes to your mind? Quickly, in the chat box, what comes to your mind when I say the word Lexus? Shulaman saying brand, and Aziz saying luxury. Shazad, luxury, traveling, luxury. You know, for those of you in Dubai, somebody the other day said Uber, which is not what I was expecting, right? So luxury and comfort, interesting. Let's do one more then. Let's do one more. What's the first word that comes to your mind when I say Dubai? What's the first word that comes to your mind? Just curious, in the chat box. Let's do one more. What's the first word that comes to your mind when I say Dubai? Nobody hopefully says credit card debt, traveling destination, lifestyle, vacations. The Sheikh Alexandra says good living, lifestyle, speed, and so on, vacations. Look, guys, the money, I don't know, money left, Arif, it left 3 weeks ago. No. So look, we have this conversation around brand, right? Now, let me ask you, there's no Disney here. There's no Lexus. Why is it that when I say Lexus around the world, people say luxury? Why? Like, why is it that when I say Disney, most people say Disney? Maybe if you've been to Disney with standing in a line for 2 hours with children pulling at your pants, it's not fun, right? But typically you say Disney, most people will say fun. You say Lexus, people will say luxury. The question becomes, why? Why? There's love to hear from you. Why do you think there is such a strong association between some of these brands, and I'll put some more up on the screen here, right? You know, the Ritz-Carlton, and then right, this idea of why do, you know, it's advertised that way, as Artasha says, right? So over years they've put in our mind that Lexus must be luxury. right? Dubai must be like this, and they've spent money on marketing and so on. I guess my question to you then is, what is your brand? What do people say about you when you're not in the room? Don't answer. I'm just hypothetical question, because look, what's your brand, right? Right? There's no Lexus in the room. I say Lexus, you say luxury. What do people say about you when you're not in the room? What's your brand? How important this personal branding has become. My friends, be careful of the brand you build. This brand will stay with you even after you're gone, right? Like, this is like the Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa-ish kind of brand, right? It stays with you even when you're not there. Every email you write, every meeting you attend builds a brand. Anybody remember, for those of you, I know we've got maybe one more, we've got a couple of automotive people with us as well, in different countries. Anybody remember a car called Hyundai Genesis? Hyundai Genesis. It came out 2-3 years ago, right? Or maybe longer than that now. And couldn't sell it, right? They couldn't sell it. Why? Right? Because people thought, well, I'll spend that much money for Italian or German, but Korean, I don't know, right? So if companies can charge a premium based on their brand, why can't we charge a premium salary based on our brand, right? Can anybody tell me Louis Vuitton? You all know Louis Vuitton? Louis Vuitton, the bane of every married man's existence, Louis Vuitton. Can I ask you, why is it that Louis Vuitton can charge about a 30% premium on their product, right? Why can't they charge a 30? Is it the leather? Is it the stitching? Right? Of course not, right? It's a brand that they've built. Be careful of the brand that you're building. Exactly. Yusuf talking about Abdul Sattar Eidi from Pakistan, what a leader he was. And then obviously now his son carrying on the good work. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this idea of quality, right? How does quality work? And then we'll link it to brand identity, right? So as I mentioned to you, every email you write, every conversation you attend builds a brand. Your attitude builds a brand. The ability to give positivity to others even when you don't feel great yourself builds a brand, right? That's leadership. The ability to give to others even when you don't have it yourself, right? So let's talk a little bit about this idea of quality, right? And I want to explain two concepts to you. How does quality work for you? Now, I know we've got people from different industries. You've got your own definition of quality. But typically, performance is linked to quality and quantity. So a very dumbed down version of the word performance is a factor of two things: quality and quantity. How well you do something and how many times you do it, okay? May I ask you, what are some of the things in your day-to-day work, now think about it from a holistic perspective, that have an impact on quality? What are some of the things that impact the quality of work that you do? Think about it. Think about it. Love to hear from you in the chat box. What are some of the things that impact the quality?
Look, Umar, one of the main things.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So one of the, as I was discussing previously as well, that the lack of understanding of a work affects your quality.
Yeah.
So until and unless you have a good understanding of your work and you have the initiative to learn about that work, you're not going to produce quality work. So you have to have that.
Arif, would I then be able to say that if knowledge or understanding or skills impacts the quality, then what would be one way to increase quality then? What would be the typical way to increase quality? What would we do?
If you have a job, that means that the people who have hired you, either they have hired you incorrectly, or you have the skills to carry out the work. So the only thing which basically lacks therein is your capability to understand. So you have to put in time to make sure that the people you are working with, they understand whatever it is, because it's as easy as people misconceiving two similar words like importance and urgent.
Exactly.
If people do not understand the difference between these two, so it creates a gap between what your understanding of the result that you are expecting and their understanding of what they have to produce.
Misalignment. Arif, my apologies to interrupt. I've got some answers coming in that I'd like to address as well. This is fantastic. So Mustafa saying to get quality is to have better communication and knowledge transfer at a higher level, guys. At a higher level, would you agree with me that if you want to improve quality of work, you develop people, right? You train people, you upskill them, right? That's how you increase quality of work. Just while on this topic, in the chat box, quickly, love to hear from you. How do you improve quantity of work, not quality? How do you improve quantity of work? As a manager, as a leader, what's something you can do to improve the quantity of work that people put in? Quality, I understand, we develop people. What about quantity? New technology, right? So you give them more tools. Anything else? It's kind of, how would you improve the quantity of work that people give? And I've got some answers coming. I'll just hold on maybe 10 more seconds here. Sultan saying motivation and tools, motivation. Of course, Dr. Zakir, you're on the ball there. Of course, if you want to improve quality of work, you train, develop people. If you want to improve quantity of work, you motivate people. Again, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want you to think and reflect a little bit. We've got managers and leaders and business owners from around the world. Love for you to think about, what are you doing right now? Are you improving the quality of your people, the quality of their work by developing them? Or are you improving the quantity of their work by motivating them? Because goodness, if you're doing neither, right? If not now, then when? And of course, Zardashius is talking about energizing the team, which is motivating. Dr. Zakir talking about communicating the sense of urgency, right? Which is the #1 step in that Kotter change model, that brilliant 8-step Kotter change model that we looked at when we did the change management session a couple of weeks ago. Establishing a sense of urgency, very important, and celebrating each and every success. I will, guys, go ahead and put, as we're talking now, the YouTube channel for Gadlang. Please make sure you guys are subscribing there, because every week the videos, these webinars that we're doing, we're recording and putting them on there. I wanted to have one more conversation with you, and then we'll wrap up for our day. I wanted to talk to you about this idea, critical idea, about the difference between AP and IP. Oh, there we go. Go back. AP and IP. So important concept, right? Now, there's AP is the actual performance, right? The level that you work on right now, the actual performance, and IP is the ideal level of performance that you yourself would like to see from yourself, or your managers would like to see from you. Actual performance is a reflection of your environment, right? It's a reflection of your skill set, all the things we've spoken about right till now. Quality and quantity, actual performance. What about ideal performance? Love to hear from you. We've got some high performers on the call with us. I know many of you from different companies. Love to hear from you in the chat box. Think about this for 1 second. Ideal performance, the level that you set for yourself, that ideal performance. Maybe your actual performance right now is not matching your ideal performance. We go through those ups and downs in life, but just want to understand, what do you think? What are some of the factors that influence ideal performance, that ambition, the altitude that you want to play at? It's okay if you're not playing at it right now, but what are some factors that impact ideal performance? Sultan Saab, you're thinking from an organization perspective. I'm thinking more from an individual perspective. Love to hear from you. What are some things that impact your ideal performance, where you are at your best? When you are achieving your best, people will say things like, early childhood guidance from parents, right? Maybe you had a teacher who set that actual ideal level of performance for you. Maybe your siblings. Maybe for those of you who had a great manager once at the early on in your career that set that brilliant ideal level of performance where you wanted to be at. And then of course you fluctuate, right? So AP, IP, you fluctuate. For those of you who are managers, how critical it is for you to be able to set that IP for your people, the ideal level of performance where people, helping people become the best version of themselves. Do you have people in your team right now? Of course, Arif, exactly the fifth principle by Peter Senge, exactly on this note, talking about helping yourself and others, that extra, the layer above, right? Which is helping people become the best version of themselves. So ideal performance is typically something that's already set with you by the time, many of people on our call today, by the time you get to this point, that ideal level of performance is set. What about the actual level of performance? So one thing I just wanted to leave you guys with is if there's a gap between AP and IP right now, if right now you're sitting at home, because our topic today was productivity and quality, and if you're sitting at home today and you feel, no, I'm not where I want to be, I'm not where that ideal level of performance can be, that's something to think about. What is the current level of performance that you have? What is the ideal level of performance? If you want to improve performance, is it the skill set gap? So do we improve it by learning and developing and skill set quality? Is it through quantity? Do I motivate myself? Do I need the impact effort grid that we spoke about at the beginning of this call? That impact effort, that urgent, important that Arif spoke about and we spoke about in the first part of our call. So do I need to improve my the quantity of work that I'm talking about? And of course, this idea of surrounding yourself with the right people. I mentioned in one of our calls, and that's the last thing I'll say, and then I'll open it up to any questions or conversations that you might want to have. A critical component of, I know Dr. Zakir mentioned emotional intelligences, but also we are a product of our environment. Human beings are highly impressionable creatures. We become a product of our environment. So if you surround yourself with negative people, guess who you'll become? You surround yourself with low performers, guess who you will become? So obviously your environment plays a big part of it. We are such impressionable creatures. I gave you the example last time of how, when they did the experiments with students in school, and they found out that when students were put in settings where they were around other good students, where they were constantly stimulated by celebration of success and praise, their own performance levels went up. On the other hand, when students were in an environment where they were demotivated, or teachers that told them, you don't know what you're talking about, sit down, and they were driven by the fear of failure, their own performance levels, productivity levels went down. So we're a product of our environment. Surround yourself with positive people. Guess who you will become? They say you hang out with dogs, you catch fleas. You surround yourself with negative people, guess who you'll become? Arif says performance concentration on quantity of work rather than its quality will lower overall quality of product that your business is producing. Understand what you're saying, Arif, from a perspective of if we focus on only one of those two, we might become brilliant, better at something, but then the other standards start to suffer as well. Because we're coming up on the hour, here's what I'm going to do, guys. In the chat box, I'm going to mention our YouTube channel. Who would have thought I would be saying this? Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. A month ago, I never thought I'd be saying this. Please make sure you do subscribe. I'm going to put in my email address there as well, in case you guys have any questions or comments afterwards. Please do stay in touch with us. We are building a bit of a global best practices forum. We've got about 450 managers and leaders from all over the world. And yes, next week, the topic is topic is maintaining energy and focus in Ramadan. What a great topic we're going to have there. We're going to have a dietitian with us as well. We're going to have a nutritionist on the call with us, a Canadian board certified nutritionist. And they're going to talk to you about how do you maintain energy and focus in Ramadan. So I hope you can join us next Thursday, same time, same channel. Make sure you join us, and we'll have some more fun around this topic of Ramadan and what do we do in Ramadan to maintain productivity and quality. I hope the session's been engaging for you. I hope it's been fun. Pleasure to have you on the call with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Zakir. It's always a pleasure. Please do stay with us. Please do stay in touch over email. And if there's anything we can do to help you, always a pleasure. Thank you so much, guys. And again, the recording of this will be on our YouTube channel in a few hours. Until then, Ramadan Kareem. Great to have you guys on the call, and we'll see you guys next week, next Thursday. Thank you. Bye-bye.